We'll move to next task, that is modeling or the preparing data for the consumption. So here, as you saw, we had a raw data in our raw layer. Then we transformed the data and stored on ADLS Gen 2, that is curated layer. Now we will bring data to the consumption layer. So in this training, I'm going to use SQL data warehouse, that is now also called as Synapse Analytics, and we will load the data using Polybase technology. You can have alternate option that for data marts, you can use SQL database as well. So this is the consumption layer we are going to work. There are certain data modeling requirements. One is model only movies data. Then create tables in Synapse Analytics. So those tables are external tables, as well as we are going to create CTAS table, that is create table as. And then the third requirement is use Polybase to load the data from ADLS Gen 2. To create data warehouse on Azure, it's a normal usual process we have to follow. Just click on create a resource. It is now called as Synapse Analytics. Earlier it was called as SQL DW, that is data warehouse. Just search for Synapse, then create. If you already have created SQL server using any other database or data warehouse, you can reuse the SQL server. If you have not created any SQL server, we have to create the new one. Here we have to provide SQL pool details. So I can provide this as movies server. I don't have anything right now, so just create new. So server, I will say movies training SQL login, then provide the password, and then choose the location. I will select allow other services to access server, click OK, so that other Azure components will be able to access this server. Next thing is we have to select the scale or the performance level. So this is Gen 2, Gen 1 is anyway not available. So I will choose the minimum, which is 100 rupees per hour. Click on apply. Next, additional settings. I do not want any backup, so I'll keep none. Or if there is other choice, you can have sample data as well. While it creates the database, it will have sample tables, mostly related to sales data. That's it. Click on create. SQL data warehouse now created. As you see, server name is moviestraining.database.windows.net, and the performance is DW100C, that is the Gen 2 unit to measure the performance. There is a button called pause. You can pause the SQL server or SQL data warehouse basically. So whenever the data warehouse is in pause state, the billing will get paused. So this is a very good method to reduce the cost. So let us do one thing. We will connect to this data warehouse from SQL Server Management Studio. For that, first we have to add our client ID in the firewall. So how we do that? We have to first navigate to server, then show our firewall settings. Here I'm going to add this client IP. So my client IP is already, it is shown here. I'm going to add that. So I'll just click on add client IP and save. Go back to data warehouse and now click on show database connection string. So I'll just copy this in Notepad++. As you see, the connection string is exactly same as of SQL database. It has server, initial catalog, this is the database name, then user ID, password, and other options. So let us connect to SQL data warehouse using this connection string. Let me just copy the server name and then we'll go to SSMS. Click on connect, SQL login, then password, and I'm going to use the database name movies. Click on connect. If you notice, this is SQL data warehouse database icon, which is different than SQL database. So let's expand that. Here inside tables, there will be one more folder called as external tables. Since we do not have any tables created, it is empty. Click on new query. We are going to connect curated layer, that is Azure Data Lake Store Gen 2 from SQL data warehouse, and we will pull data using Polybase technology. For that, I have created some commands. So let me copy paste those first. And I'll again show you the curated layer which is there on Azure Data Lake Gen 2. Go to storage, movies curated 2, and then in containers, we have data in movies. So this is Parquet formatted files. Let's ensure that yes. So we will need the reference of the storage account. So we'll keep this window open. We'll navigate back to SSMS, that is SQL Server Management Studio. First thing, we have to create master key. The master key is nothing but SQL Server ensures whatever the credentials we are going to store in this SQL Server data warehouse are encrypted. So there is no other way that we can store the credential without encryption. This is a one-time activity. We have to create the master key. So I have already created it. I'm not going to fire this command again. Otherwise, it will provide me error. Let me show you that as well. The master key is already created. Next one is we have to create database scope credential. So these credentials are nothing but the sensitive information of the storage account. So what is sensitive information? It can be either key, account level key, or it can be SAS URL. Identity is a free text. You can provide any name. So I'm just putting movies here. Secret, I'm going to copy the primary key and paste into secrets field. Let's execute that. Third one is we have to create the external data source. So where you are going to create and what type of data is nothing but it's a Parquet file or the Azure Data Lake storage, that is Gen2, is type of Hadoop basically. Our location is our account name and container. So how to get the complete endpoint? Go to properties, and if you see data lake storage, copy it, paste here. As we already know, the data is accessed using AB access for Azure Data Lake Gen2, and then we have container as curated. So curated at the rate this account name. So let us run that as well. So we have created data source and we have added the credential. So using this credential, we have created data source. Next task is creating file format. Since our file format are Parquet file, and just provided as a format type is equal to Parquet. Create that. Once that is done, we are going to create external tables. If you remember the schema, we had movie ID, movie title, category, rating, runtime minute, release date, and then source. Created date we did not have inserted, so I'll just remove that. The syntax is again create external table, the table name. This is the schema, and the location. Location is the path where we have the file stored. Data source is this one we just created, storage curated. Text file format, what type of files you have. Reject type, if the value is not matching with the schema, whether you want to reject or not, and how many values you want to reject. Let's say there are only 2 rows which are problematic, and if you want to skip those, then I can provide 2. So as soon as the third row it encounters problematic or the not matching schema, it will throw error. So for time being, I'll put as a 0. Since we have to provide the location, we go back to storage, go to container, inside curated, movies. So location is only movies folder. Movies. And I want to read all the files. Just run that. Since it connects to storage and tries to validate the data, it takes some more time, a little bit more time than the earlier commands. Next one is just ensure data is being read properly. If you refresh here in external tables, you will see DBO external movies. Okay, we got the error that external file access failed due to the internal error. So it found the exception it found that there is column mismatch between the file and what are the schema I have provided. So let me go back and validate how I created the data. The source file has 5 columns, external storage, external table definition has 7 columns. Let me check that. Yeah, so how we created those files? So there are movie ID, movie title, category, release date. Only 4 columns we had, and also we added source. So let me correct these columns: movie ID, movie title, category, and release date. So I did not have any other columns used. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me delete this first. And recreate the table. We see the data. Open gateway start a big brother. So it is able to connect to the Azure Data Lake Gen 2 storage, that is curated layer, and it also fetch the data using Polybase. So whatever we did is nothing but the Polybase technology. So data is residing on the external storage. We are reading through SQL data warehouse. Next one is inserting data into SQL data warehouse. So the fastest way is using CTAS table. So let us do one thing. Schema and all, I'm going to skip that. It's a usual way we create the schema and database. So I will say internal movies. Distribution is hash on ID. ID is movie ID. And table is external. So let us create this. So it will create internal int underscore movies table. Also, it will insert the data into that table. So let us verify that. We have data in internal table as well. So what is the difference between insert into? So I can also do one thing, that select star into internal movies 2 from this one. So let us fire this. So in the both way we can insert data. However, what is the difference between CTAS, that is create table as select star from the table, and select star into is we can provide a distribution type here. So it can be hash or it can be round robin or even replicated. That choice is not there for this select star into command. So let us refresh it again. If you notice, the internal movies and internal movies 2 icon, this is a round robin and this is hash distribution. Let me zoom it for you. See here, it is hash distributed table and a round robin table. So CTAS table is always recommended, and it is efficient way to create the internal tables and insert the data into that. And also we have choice that we can choose the distribution type in SQL data warehouse.